welcome to another Roundtables Discussions. I'm here with Don from the OSBGL.
Hey guys.
And we are doing a long requested video, finally, from Jin. Is that how you say it? How do you say his name?
Jin?
Jin, yeah. I'm second guessing myself on everything today. Trying to get back into the swing of things after the Christmas break. He has requested on basically every Tale of Two Time Zones that I've done so far, is how did the OSBGL start? So I decided that, me being somebody who wasn't there for the start, that I would bring in Don, who is one of the founding admins, I guess you could call yourself, right? Of the OSBGL. So ask him some questions and have a discussion about what our hobby's like in this one and where we hope to see it go in the future.
Yeah, right
so,
on. I gotta say one thing, and this comes, I'll steal this right from Damien and Tom on the Plantier, and say that these are my own views and opinions and do not represent the views and opinions of the OSBGL or the other OSBGL admin members or other such companies such as the Hudson Bay Company. Something Canadian.
Yeah, we'll do the Hudson Bay Company.
Yeah.
T-Toast? No, we're not going to do a T-Toast. I believe that last I heard it was with Adam, I think. I sent it off to Adam, and I don't know if they've done a video since, because they're weekly videos. Like my weekly Tale of Two Time Zones aren't being very weekly right now.
Fair enough.
So, how about, where did it all begin? I guess that might be the best question to ask. From what I know is that Jordan, who is also one of the admin, started the Facebook group more of just a way to get some of his friends together in game, and then maybe what was the next step? Where did it go?
Well, what happened, actually, it's kind of ironic that where we are is very close to where my daughter went to school and where you went to school, Sheridan College. It's
spitting distance, it's just up the road.
Just up the road. So actually that's really one of the main reasons why I got involved, is because Jordan Giacinti, the Godfather, he actually had started a Facebook group which only had, I think, 6 or 8 people on it, just his immediate acquaintances that play the game, just for a get-together.
Yeah, so just kind of what we use Facebook conversations now.
Exactly.
Back 3.5-4 years ago.
Yeah, so there was no group or nothing at that time other than that small Facebook group. But at that time, I was actively looking for other players because Adam, Marcel, had asked me for a game, and I'm like, sure, I have an entire Uruk-hai army painted up in my basement. It's been sitting down there for 5 years or more. Let's have a game. So we had a game at my games club, and after that he told me about the GBHL, and I had started watching that religiously, and started looking for other players in Canada. And I went on the forums, and I didn't have any luck on the forums, but on the GBHL they kept mentioning Jordan's name and that he was in Canada.
Gotcha.
And so I forget exactly how I looked him up, but I managed to find him. I think it was probably through a post on one of their...
Maybe one of the posts, maybe the map that used to be that interactive map.
I can't remember exactly, but as it turns out, he was in Hamilton, and at that time, my daughter had just graduated Sheridan College, and she got a job in Niagara-on-the-Lake at Shaw, which is a theater company in Ontario here. And so, every month or so, I'd be driving from north of Toronto all the way through the Golden Horseshoe, like Hamilton, Oakville, and down into Niagara area. And so it made it easier, on the way down or on the way back.
I'm coming through. Do you want to have a game?
I would contact Jordan, and we would have a get-together for a game, and we probably did that, maybe 3 or 4 times. And then at that point, more people started to get involved because people were being added to the group, and so
new friends.
Like before you knew it, there were maybe 12 people in the group or whatever. Still a very small number, though.
To give you some history of this area of Toronto, actually, back about 7 years ago, Games Workshop used to have the Battle Bunker, which was a larger store just actually in Oakville. So even back then, some of our older members who have been playing the game for a while. No, but like Tom and Timothy, I think, used to play at not Timothy Cole, Timothy. I'm terrible with names.
Right.
And there was another one that I just met recently that I'm terrible with names. He hasn't come out to anything yet, but he used to play with Tom up at the Battle Bunker. So there have been players around that were probably looking for a home. So as soon as that Facebook group got a little bit more traction and more members, more would keep coming out of the woodwork.
Yep.
And then, so it was just a social group at that point. When did it change from a social group to being the OSBGL, like the league?
Well, at this stage of the game, in comes Evan Woodruff, and it was Evan didn't know about this group as far as I understand, but he, I believe at that time, was still up in Barrie, which is a bit north of here.
Yep.
And he was looking at starting a group with his friends, and he contacted me to get me involved either as a player or to help out. I can't remember exactly at this time, and I don't remember how he got my name. Could be because I'm involved in the gaming community outside of
the hobby.
But
Don runs the Hamilton. You're one of the
Newmarket Games Club.
Newmarket Games Club. That's what it is.
So anyway, Evan, as it turns out, was looking at starting a competitive league for this hobby specifically, and
ambitious to do with not very many players.
Yeah, like we really literally had just barely over like a handful or two of known people that were interested. So anyway, we started talking about it, and I said, well, you know what? It's like there is already a group, and they already have by then maybe 20 people, let's just say. And I said, like, why not, instead of starting another group, like just kick in with this group, and let's run with that as a group. So sort of at that point in time,
you, Evan, and Jordan became kind of the admins.
The three of us became the admin, and sort of our roles at that time, we didn't have any kind of a defined role really, but what they ended up being was Evan was really in charge of the competitive league, and Jordan was really in charge of like recruiting new people, and I was kind of in charge of like creating an actual group out of all of that, right? So that's kind of how the structure sort of started.
And the first event that the OSBGL had was up in Barrie, correct?
It was the first tournament.
Yeah. You had some social meetups and that sort of thing beforehand. But the first tournament was up in Barrie.
Yeah.
And then I kind of popped into so then the group, I'm assuming, kept expanding. More people found out about it.
Yeah.
A GW, well, he wasn't at the time, but Timothy Cole, who now works at Games Workshop Appleby, who used to be, sadly, he has been taken over by 40K and Sigmar, because
honestly, it's like he works pretty well 6 days a week, so he can't really, now he's a Games Workshop store manager, he's not really free like he used to be to get to events as much.
But he was big into the hobby, and that's I think it was probably about the 8 months after the league sort of started was when I think I met Tim by going into Games Workshop, and he was like, hey, you guys are looking, because we talked to him about Hobbit stuff, and he was like, yo, go join this group.
Yeah, he was fantastic and still is at promoting our group, and is always very generous.
Oh, every time I walk into the store, he's like, yo, this guy was just talking to me about it, or this guy, and it's just, so it's great. He actually has a bunch of players now playing Battle Companies, so that's really good.
That's good.
So, you guys started it with the first year. I was there for the second year. Before the second year...
So this was, like, when I first met Jordan and all that, and just started playing in that, it was 2014. And our first actual league season was 2015.
2015. And then I think I came into it at about the late 2015, early 2016.
And by the way, and, you know, Evan will agree with me on this, is like he was pushing the competitive league at the beginning, and I was like, well, how can we possibly have the competitive league? We don't have any players. But he drove the competitive league.
Yeah.
Right? And I did not honestly think that it was possible to have a competitive league in our first season. and I had sort of not really actively discouraged it, but been like, look, maybe we should concentrate on
growing the hobby,
the membership,
and getting.
And to his credit, he stuck to his guns and pushed the league. And I'm like, okay, let's go for the league. And that guy ran, I think, at least 4 tournaments in the first year, which I didn't think was even possible for someone to do. But Evan actually ran 4 tournaments the first year.
And were those
No, we had. Yeah. I'm gonna say we had like 9 or 10 for sure.
Yeah.
And I ran 2. He ran 4, and then we had a couple other people who I've forgotten who they were. Ran a couple, and in the end of the year we had like 9 or 10 tournaments the first year, which was fantastic. And at the beginning of the year, I didn't think it was possible.
No, and probably what would you guess that the player base grew to by the end of the first year?
Well, this is where you get into a bit of semantics, because like with any group on Facebook, you have the number of people on the group on Facebook, and then you have the number of people that actually come out to events. And the number of people that come out to events is shockingly small percentage of the overall member of the group, and it's like that in any Facebook gaming community that I've ever been part of.
We are both of the GBHL group, but I don't think either of us have been out to a GBHL event.
And the same thing is like we have now members all over the world that are part of the OSBGL Facebook group, and of course, the majority of them will not ever make it to any of our events, although they're always welcome.
Always welcome. We're just a short, 14-hour plane ride away for all of you UK guys. But we have had some Americans come up to some events.
We have.
We've even, and I think this year we now, I was talking to somebody, I believe, from Germany, who's over for a couple months. So he now, I met him through the Twitch channel, for Warhammer, Twitch channel. He was just so... Yeah, and then also I think we've got a couple guys from the UK coming as well for some of the events too.
We do. We have.
But okay, let's go back to my original question.
But at the end of the first year, how many? I'm gonna have to guess here.
Yeah, no,
and basically what the question is how many different people were actually participating.
Yes, that is my question.
And I'm gonna say it was maybe something only like 25 to 30.
Okay. That's not a bad number for the first year.
Because the first year, we ran 9 or 10 tournaments, but they weren't big.
No,
they were
like 12 people?
They were as small as maybe 8 to maybe as big as 14. So they're in that range. So pretty modest, but it was, for the people that wanted to play, we were having events and having tournaments, and we had league standings.
And made some good friends.
Yeah, exactly. We had a completely different format at the time, and the way that the league worked and the league standings worked. Since then, we've adopted the way that GBHL runs their league. But at that time, we were just going with wins, losses, draws, basically.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. And then, so that was kind of year 1. So that caps us out at about 25-ish players. 25, 30.
Approximately. It's
we're
best guess. Yeah.
And then year 2 happened, and I was involved in year 2. I wasn't there for the first couple events because I was gone to New Brunswick for a contract. But I came back for the rest of the year. And
so
did some events.
This is now 2016, our second year.
Yeah.
And really, this is where, because the focus of the group, as far as I see it, has really changed from the first year, 2015, to where we are now, 2018, our 4th season. In the first year,
well, we're not quite there yet. We still got to have our league or GT.
Yeah, we still actually haven't finished the 2017 season.
Yeah.
But in the first year or even 2 years, the focus of me, anyways, I'll just say myself, was really to find people that had armies of Lord of the Rings, and like me, get them out of the basement and get them on the table and
give them the quick spurt from the air gun so that all the dust flies off.
At that time, we honestly didn't see a lot of future in the hobby.
No,
so the target was really to find people that already had armies, because there are hundreds of people that have armies of this game because it was so huge. Back in the early 2000s. So that was really our focus at the time. And, probably midway through our second season, we sort of started to realize that the focus of who we were trying to get to come into the group was starting to change. And then it really changed as soon as Games Workshop injected new blood into the game and hired like a production person, a designer.
Yeah, so they've got
and when that was
4
exactly,
employees
I'm not sure.
now.
Yeah. Early 2017, something like that, maybe.
I think they were hired late 2016.
Yeah. Soon as that happened, the focus of the group changed.
Well, because it went from being finding players that already played the game to being like, oh, we can now get new players in. And so I've felt the change as being one now in the third year. I really hopped on and took on a lot of stuff and trying to grow the player base and that sort of thing.
Because
so
quite frankly,
I felt that change.
Like the first 2 years, trying to get new people involved in a game that appeared to really not have any future per se, it was a really hard sell, to put it lightly.
Yeah.
Right? Very, very difficult to sell people. There's so many miniature games out there. To try and get people to jump on and buy product for a game that looked pretty destined for mothballing.
Yeah, and
very difficult.
If you found that new player who might have been interested, they then wanted to go play this army from the movie. And back then, well, I mean, still, we don't have every model available to us. So it probably, that would have even made it even a tougher sell, even for the guys who might have been semi-interested.
Exactly.
Getting them back in. So
now the focus has changed dramatically from that. Plus, we've got a lot of people to get their armies out of their basements and come and join our league and play. And now we're looking for new people that have never played the game before.
Well, we're just capping out the end of the season, and I just recently looked, and we're just under 60 players from this year so far. We might get a couple more out to the GT who are going to be new players. So I think we're going to round it out at about 60. So over the course of 2 years, we've doubled our player base.
Yeah.
Which might not seem like a lot for the guys in the GBHL who they're looking at the hundreds, but for us in Ontario, I think it's a really testament to you and the job that you've done with promotion and everything like that, and the job that the player base and the rest of the admin team has done. Because
thank you.
You guys have created a solid foundation of a league that still has the fun community aspect to it, because we aren't... You go to one of our events, and I'm sure this is the same with any of them, and we've said it before, and it's not like going to a 40K event or a War Machine event or something like that where it's all about winning.
Yeah.
A lot of us play for fun. We just go to the events because it's the way that we can get our 4 games a month in one day, as opposed to every Friday night at X independent retailer or Games Workshop.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And you're actually touching on another aspect of our group, which is always a concern, and that is the competitive side versus the non-competitive side.
No, completely.
Because we have people that are really only interested in competitive, and we have really people that are primarily interested in non-competitive, fun, get-together type events. And then we have people in between.
Yeah, and then we also have some who are purely interested in scenarios too. So that's not even just not competitive. Like they just want to go and play the scenarios, which you can't really. You can try and squeeze them into a tournament, but they even have that extra level of hardness getting into that, because they're like, well, no, I just want to play the stuff from the movies, which is completely fine. It's just finding the days and events and those sorts of things, which is why I think our league has shifted and changed compared to the GBHL. So what 2016 year in a recap, it was a monthly tournament. Some were more fluffy than others, but they were still. And you did one event that was pure, that wasn't a tournament at all. And I don't think we had many others.
Are you talking about the one I just ran this past year? Yeah. That was 2017.
Sorry, 2017, yeah.
In 2016, I ran a competitive event, I believe, in Newmarket.
Sorry, I'm mixing up years.
I don't remember, actually, in 2016, if we actually had a non-competitive event on our schedule. We might not have.
2016, the year that started with the event at Tim's shop?
It did, and it was a tournament.
Yeah, and it was a tournament. I'm just trying to place the years again.
Yeah, it was like that.
I don't think we did. I think everything was a tournament.
I'm pretty
across the
sure
board.
they were all tournaments, and we had either 11 or 12, one per month. And in our format, we do give quite a bit of control to the TO on how they're going to put together their tournament with either custom missions or the stock ones out of the book, the 6 standards.
We're now at 12.
So
General's accessory pack.
2016 really saw the explosion of the custom mission by TOs, to the point where I think by the end of the year, people were tired of custom missions. And just speaking for myself here, but that was what I observed.
No, I observed that too, and I think it was just because, like for me, for instance, when I go to an event, I don't really spend that much time tailoring a list for it or something like that before I go. So it was always like, you got to the event, and then you had to read the scenarios again because you maybe read them once 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And it just, it made the day seem longer and slogged it out and those sorts of things. Like I remember there was one, it was a really great mission, and it was fun to play, and I loved playing it, but it was at Michael Campbell's event. That was the dragon that would go after the egg and those sorts of things. And it just, there were a lot of questions around it.
Yeah.
It was, I loved playing it, and I actually wanted to get a copy of it.
Yeah, I really liked that mission.
Yeah, it was a really good mission.
But again, like any mission like that, I mean, using that as an example, but there's tons of other examples where TOs are trying to get creative. They're trying to push theme into the competitive side of the game, and that's fantastic.
No, completely.
But over 2016, we saw some competitive or some custom missions introduced throughout the year, and then more and more and more and more, until by the end of 2016, it was like, all right, like let's tone it down a little with the custom missions maybe. But still, we don't actually have anything formal in place restricting that.
2016 was also the last year, was the way the league standings went was, I believe it was cumulative points over the whole year for every event that you attended. So,
it was.
So for somebody to really excel at the league, they had to be at every kind of event.
So participation was a mandatory thing if you wanted to finish near the top.
Yeah.
And if you didn't come, then like even if you came and you lost a bunch of games, you'd still get some points.
Yeah.
Right? But if you didn't show up, then you weren't going to be in contention for the league. So, it took us 2 years to figure it out, but eventually we figured it out that that model really wasn't ideal. And we switched over to what the GBHL does. And basically they have a completely different matrix for scoring. But generally speaking, you're taking your first best or your 4 best tournaments scores for the year, and that equals your score.
Yeah,
right.
I think,
so we're doing.
I think the other format has merit when you're trying to build the community, because it's kind of the way to force people to get out. Because I think, and you can correct me if you disagree, but I think we've seen a little bit of decline over the 2017 year because people didn't, and I don't think it's just because of the points, but I think we've seen a bit of a decline of people going out to every event because they didn't feel the need to, because A, it didn't matter if they went, they only needed to go to 4 to get top points. B, our hobby's back, so there was less drive to, if I don't go, there's not going to be a player, and it's not going to, they're going to think the game's dying more. That drive is gone.
Yeah,
that drive,
in my opinion, that's the bigger one. Yeah. And that is like the first, especially the first year, all the people that were part of the group, they did like a fantastic job of like getting to as many, if not all of the tournaments of the year, because people feel obligated. Like we're trying to create something out of nothing, and so people feel that they really need to go.
Yeah,
right?
No, completely.
And now last year was our 3rd year. Games Workshop supporting the game again. And
new content, new books, new models.
So that feeling amongst the community, I think, got diminished a little bit, and you saw people that were regular attendees at all of the events. They maybe missed a few, right? And that's fine. Like that's actually what's to be expected. You can't expect people to go to every event because Ontario is a huge place,
as we've talked about in many of videos.
To try to get to every event, for every player to try to get to every event, it's a lot of traveling. Like this past year, I've been to every event. And
I think you are one of the few.
I think I'm the only one. I'm not sure, but I'll tell you, it's a lot of traveling and arranging, and there's some cost associated with it as well.
Yeah.
So like you can't expect, as an organizer of the group, you just can't expect people to do that.
No.
Like, you know, if you want to get involved in the group, then, and if you want to be competitive in the group, well, then I would expect that you would at least attend 4, because it's going to be your 4 top scores.
And you kind of have to go to a few more to hopefully, if you don't win one, to balance out that lower score.
Fortunately for us, I think this was the year where we had quite a lot of new players join the league. And some of that was due to new players picking up the game.
Yeah, completely.
It's from yourself attending conventions and pushing the game, and also from the OHA springing up in the western part of the province and really supporting the game with their events and their videos. And, you know, they've sort of awakened like a group of people from that side of the province.
And I think I think some of the guys that came from the London area was because the OSBGL really didn't have anybody from the London area.
It did not.
So as soon as we had George, who used to work for Games Workshop, I think back in the day, used to play the game. He used to make tables for them, I think.
I'm not sure.
Is what he said to me. I could be mistaken. Correct me if I'm
wrong. I
wrong.
wouldn't be surprised because his terrain is fantastic.
Yeah, and Jason even further down. Right, it's Jason. You changed your name on Facebook, and it still catches me up.
Yeah.
Jason.
Jason Smith is what it is on Facebook.
Yes, it's Jason Smith. Yeah, I always second guess myself. I'm terrible with names. But because we had players like that came out of the woodwork, started to support it, started to go out and be visible again. Mm-hmm. Other old players pop up out of the woodworks, and new players decide to hop in, and I think that's the only way to grow a league.
That's where you come to the geography of the situation, right? Like, it's one thing to get someone to realize they want to play, but if there's nobody in their area to play with, then
nobody will play.
You know, it won't amount to anything.
No, completely. Yeah. But so now we're just wrapping up 26-17. So we've seen kind of an explosion of player base and that sort of thing. What do you hope and expect and want to see different in 2018?
In terms of the
league.
The league?
The league.
Well, the way that it seems to be going is that the players that are supporting sort of the non-competitive side of things are starting to seem to have a bit of a louder voice, and or at least I acknowledge that, and I think we all do on the admin side. The competitive players in the league want to keep the competitive structure alive
completely,
because that's what the league was founded on. It was based on a competitive league, so that's not going to go anywhere as far as I'm concerned.
No.
But having
if you get rid of the competitive, you don't. It's just
having said that, we want to make room to have non-competitive, sort of fluffy themed events as part of our league, right?
Completely.
And fortunately, the structure that we've adopted from the GBHL, it really allows for that, in my opinion, really well, because they have sort of 2 tiers of play in that you have 100-point events and 80-point events, and so like the winner of a 100-point event gets 100 points, and then you scale down from there, 95 or whatever.
Yeah, depending on the number of players and that sort of thing.
And then the 80-point events, which are maybe smaller events, maybe doubles events, maybe events with like all custom missions or whatnot, they start at 80 and scale down from there. Well, on the competitive side of things, if you're going to be attending the majority of events, quite frankly, the 80-point events really don't mean much at all to your score.
Nope. Right? No, if you're in that top quarter of players, you should be getting 80 points anyway on a 100-point event if you're going for the top.
Like even if you come in like 5th place or something in a 100-point event, you're probably going to end up getting more points than you would, you know, even if you won an 80-point event. Yeah. So it's not that it doesn't mean anything, it does.
No, yeah, you definitely still need that 80-point event. But for players who don't want to be all of that competitive, but still have some recognition in the league standings. Hey, I went out to all of the events and I did fairly well in some of these non they're still competitive because typically they still have a competitive aspect to them.
It's where you get into a bit of a funny thing where people are interested in running what they would deem as a non-competitive event, but they still structure it as a tournament, and there's a winner and a second place and a third place.
Which I think will always mean that it will end up being a competitive
So to me, regardless of the format, whether it be doubles, whether it be all custom missions, whether it be whatever, fluffy focus, right, that, if you're going to run your event as a tournament, okay, with a winner and a second place and so on,
matchups that
it's a competitive event.
Yeah, it has
in one way or another, it's still a competitive event. A truly non-competitive event is not structured that way at all. It's like we're all getting together today for Battle of Helm's Deep, and that's not a tournament. It's definitely not a competitive event.
No, you have two teams.
Yeah,
but it's not a competitive tournament.
So
event.
it is kind of difficult to find the line where like on this side of it it's competitive, and on this side of it it's not competitive. But for us,
when your structure's a tournament,
for myself anyway, and I think Ben, our commissioner, agrees that for us the 80-point events are the ones that we can give the opportunity for TOs to really do whatever they want in terms of structure and in terms of what scenarios or missions they run.
No, completely. Which I think that puts a kind of good wrap on it. Mm-hmm. But leads me into a good segue. Actually, the first event of the 2018 season is actually going to be run by Lewis, who works with us here at Blackfyre Productions, and he's doing it a classic Lord of the Rings style event. Yeah. So it means that you only need to have one hero, and you can have as many troops as you want.
Yeah,
that go with that.
So he's getting rid of the warband.
Yeah, he's getting rid of the warband thing. Yeah. So, and then there's also a caveat, I believe. I haven't looked at it in a while, but it's like only 33% of your army can be a different fraction, and they have to have their own leader as well. Okay. So like if you want to bring Rohan and Gondor can only be 33%, and you still have to have a leader with that.
Yeah.
So
I'm not actually familiar with all the details of the players pack or whatever on that one yet.
Neither am I. I'm kind of pulling that out of memory from when he chatted with me 3 months ago and that. But that's the first event in February. We still get our GT, which is actually a month from yesterday.
It's next weekend.
So it's going to be on January 13th. We'll say that because I have no idea when this video is going to go up.
Yeah.
That's Adam's job. And yeah, I think that's a good recap of kind of how the league started, where it's going, who the key players were in the start, the three kind of founding admins, as I kind of will call you, till the day that you die. I hope this answered all of your questions about the OSBGL beginnings. If you have any more, feel free to comment down below. If you enjoy what we do, our Patreon is also down below. You can support us there, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and don't forget to ignite your hobby.
Right on.